Spider-Man. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just gonna need you to cancel that just right then and there. You know we don't have the money to fight the copyrights. You think I have enough to fight Disney? No.
I was singing the Caribbean Afrobeats version of it, and I had to
get us caught up out here.
We got 7 seconds.
And how many seconds was that?
I think it was 5. I think we good.
Okay. As long as Disney, just don't. I don't want to deal with the pain and heartbreak any more than I already have to.
I think Disney has bigger issues at the moment.
Yeah, and it's gonna be me in about a few weeks, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, we're here. We're back.
And I'm Demetrius.
And I'm apparently Demetrius. Well,
and Meet Meets presents
the Blerd City podcast. And all right, so today is going to be a very special episode. If you couldn't guess by the title and then what in the world that singing was, we're going to be taking a just quick look at a certain character in both of our childhood, one of our top heroes of all time, the one and only Peter Benjamin Parker, Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Spectacular Spider-Man, the Avenging Spider-Man, not the Superior Spider-Man, not even the ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man, and PS4 Spider-Man.
Yeah, now PS5.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. PS5 Spider-Man. My bad.
Yes. One of the ones on the Mount Rushmore of superheroes, easily Spider-Man. So just with that, it is Spider-Man week. We are recording this just for recording purposes. The last Thursday from when you're hearing this. But with that, again, we have a time crunch as usual. Meech, I was thinking, here's what we got to do. You and I, we just got to have like a bro day. So like we like tell everyone, hey, leave us alone for this specific day. We like get on the PS5 sticks. We get like a dual play horror video game, which terrifies me. You laugh at me gaming. we get like unhealthy burgers, fries, and stuff like that. Then we watch anime we can do that, and then we watch like anime for like 3 hours or something like that. Good bonding time.
Oh yeah, some good old fashioned horror anime. I have the recommendations on lock. I
after the gaming, so yeah.
Oh yes, of course. Listen, it has to be a whole sequential day. You know what I'm saying? And Spider-Man unfortunately cannot join us that day.
It's gonna be after we 100% the game.
Yes, because I will get that platinum trophy after day 3. Just
right. So hit us with the legal spiegel.
All right. The purpose of this podcast is to explore digital and print media. All sources we reference are owned by their respective companies, and our thoughts and opinions are strictly our own and reflect no biases of corporate agendas. Your discretion is advised.
Look, so as we always get started, we always hit you with the what's hot. Usually we go through a whole list of different categories, both anime, gaming, comic books, TV, movies. There's a lot going on. A lot I want to say, actually, because like Tokyo Revengers, one person got to go. But with that, it's Spider-Man week. We're giving it to him. Meech, hit us with it.
Spider-Man 2, PS5, greatness is upon us. Just know that, again, I told y'all, I will not be seeing the light of day. As a matter of fact, I put in my PTO for that day. I'm not going into work. And whether they approve it or deny it or not, I mean, that's not up to them. It's up to me. And I choose to stay home that day. Whatever happens, happens. Let's see. We got ourselves our boy, Peter Parker. We got our boy, Miles Morales. We back in the 6th. And then we got ourselves Big Daddy Venom. You know what I'm saying? Just GOAT. One.
With the voice GOAT, too.
Yes, with the voice of a god himself, with the voice of a god. That's all I need to say.
A demon god, some would say.
Well, and all you gotta say is, listen, I'm gonna go into a bathroom. I'm just say Venom 5 times in a mirror. Let's see what happens. But yeah, so we pretty much that's going on. As the summer symbiotes is well over now. It's just back back to business as usual. And then in the newest issue of Amazing Spider-Man, Peter's back to his normal self again. So normal wilding out, which is unfortunate. They could have had that a bit longer, but also and also in other news for Spider-Man, Superior is back. He's back in form. We back in good graces. Of course, my boy Stegman, he had to draw it for the one time, bring us all the way back to 2013 when Superior came back. Well, it's first introduced. So yeah, he's Superior's back, and we're all crying.
Yes, and with the Spider-Man PS5 game, I will not be touching grass as well. Only 3 entities are going to get me to come out of my house outside of Spider-Man. One of them is Jesus. The second one pays the bills that allows me to buy the Spider-Man game. And the third one, I've had a conversation with that person. They said I'm going to touch grass, but we'll see. I think I'm going to lose that argument.
Ooh, just know that, listen, as a man who's been through what you're about to go through, you got to stay strong, brother. You got to stay strong.
Hey, you got to cut your phone on silent for a certain person, too.
Oh, no, I already told that person, like, listen, it is what it is. As much as I would enjoy it, there's something that's more important than you right now. So, the world's not big enough for the world's not
outside of Spider-Verse.
The world's not big enough.
So yes. Also, other thing, I know Ultimate Spider-Man, the comics are getting a reboot, right?
Yes, it is, because Jonathan Hickman, A.K.A. the GOAT of X-Men, decided to try his hand at a new version of the Ultimate Universe. And he already released 4 issues called Ultimate Invasion, which then ducktails into, I think it's called Ultimate Universe or something like that, which is a one-shot. And then you get the Ultimate Spider-Man reboot.
Whew. Heat, man. So and one more thing with Spider-Man. It's rumored at the moment, but there are rumors that Tobey Maguire is going to be a lead in Secret Wars. It's rumors. So we don't know. Marvel has a lot going on behind the scenes, which we won't get into this week. But
yeah, nah. I don't know. I don't know about that one, especially after the news we heard this week. I was like,
yes,
it ain't looking good. It ain't looking.
All right. So before we dive deeper into specifically Peter Parker and Spider-Man, doing another thing that we love, character studies, just like getting an opportunity to break down a character from the inception of the character to now and how we feel about it. We got to do something that because of yesterday, we have to get something off of our chest. Meech, did you see the news about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith?
Oh, dear Lord. Oh my goodness. That was the only thing I could see that day.
So I saw this yesterday. So apparently they've been separated for 7 years. The Oscars thing happened last year? Question mark? 2 years ago?
It feels like 3 years ago at this point, but it was last year.
The August Alsina thing happened the height of COVID, so definitely 3 years ago. Fellas, we gotta stop the simping. This man is banned from the Oscars for 10 years for slapping someone. He's been separated for 7 years.
Keep my wife's name out your...
Damn. Come on, William. We can't. I'm sorry. What are we talking about? Like, and then even like the August Alsina thing, like literally, if you're like, hey, we're separated, no one's gonna come at you because of that. But you had to go through that whole process looking like a complete punk because of that. And then on the other side, you want to talk about you don't love somebody? Show me you don't love me without telling me you don't love me. You don't tell people you're separated for 7 years until you're trying to promote a memoir? What? Dudes, kings, queens, and in-betweens, I said it before. We gotta stop simping. This goes to real life. This goes to anime. Takamichi, you gotta stop simping for Hina. You gotta let it go after that last episode. It might be too late. Subaru, you gotta stop simping for Emilia. You've died way too many times for her. Sakura, the simp of all simps, please. And Peter Parker with Paul and Mary Jane. We gotta stop this simping. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm done with that family. I can't anymore.
Well, the move just dropped tremendously for me just now. Because like when she was talking about it, and the fact this woman had the nerve to say, "I thought it was a skit." She really said, "I thought it was a skit." Until he came to sit down. We knew she was a giant red flag when she said that she was still in love with Tupac, even though this man been dead for close to 30 years now.
Yeah, we were born.
Like, this man been dead longer than I've been alive. All right. And then just, as I said, we got August Alsina with your child's friend, and then you had the Oscars, and you just oh yeah, entanglement. You can't even say that word anymore without thinking of the situation.
Yeah. It's not even an entanglement. You just had something because you're separated. You literally just have to say that. Yeah. And it's good. No one cares. None of this happens. This is ridiculous.
Will, listen to me.
William.
Listen to me for a second. See, you was my hero, all right? You was my hero, right? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You was who I was inspired to be. It wasn't Carlton. Rest in peace to Uncle Phil, because, I mean, he's who you tried to be, but I wanted to be you. Nah, I can't anymore. I can't let this slide. William Smith, get out of here. The wall is coming down.
This is why the rumbling is happening. Because of this. This is down egregious. This is Bowser behavior. I don't think I would ever say that. Down Bowser behavior.
Zamasu did nothing wrong.
Oh man. So with that, we're gonna transition. Yeah, just please, people. Sometimes it ain't worth it. Love don't cost a thing. Worry about yourself.
You really go use that title of all titles? That's crazy.
All right, let's get to it.
All right, let's move on.
All right, so with that, we are back. We are doing our character study series. Now, with it, again, being Spider-Man week, we are dropping our in-depth character study specifically on Peter Parker, OG Spider-Man. So with that, we like to talk about, again, the inception of the character, different, like, big pivotal moments. Obviously, this being a comic book character being around for almost a century. There's different incarnations of it, so we're just going to touch on kind of what the essence of Spider-Man means to us. So, Meet, can you actually talk about the quick history of the conception?
All right, so we're going to talk about this quick history of Spider-Man. You know, he is quintessentially the nerd character. He essentially Stan Lee back in 1961. He was trying to talk with the Marvel editors about a certain character. He wanted to create, essentially wanted to take the super sidekick archetype, but make it its actual own hero. And like, hey, like, have a superhero. Basically, the sidekick is the focus of the story without the superhero mentor to back them up. And of course, like, and I actually want to be a fly on the wall for this, but essentially you're talking about, like, all right, he wanted to make it Spider-Man, but the editors, they didn't want to use Spider because of the fact, like, hey, spiders are terrifying. Not to me, but to other people. But Stan Lee put his foot down. He decided to say, you know what? It's either you get with the program or you getting canned. And with that, August of 1962, Amazing Fantasy issue number 15 released, detailing the origins of Peter Parker, the Amazing Spider-Man, with no hyphen, by the way.
Nice, nice. So anything else with that before we get into just like the love of him growing up?
I mean, hey, as I said, like he is, as we said, the Mount Rushmore of superheroes. Like when you think of superheroes, he is top three. He is the face of Marvel, even though Marvel been doing him dirty for the past 20 years. Arguably, actually, scratch 20 years, past 30 years, but
depends on the medium, I guess. But yeah,
I'm talking about in comics.
I know.
In comics, he's been getting done dirty for 30 years. It's crazy. But yeah, so like essentially just he is the Mount Rushmore. He is basically the kid archetype, essentially, as I mentioned, and he is the hero that you relate to the most. Because are you gonna relate to a demigod from space? No. Are you gonna relate to a billionaire who inherited his fortunes from parents who got put on t-shirt? I wish, but no. But can you relate to a nerd who keeps getting bullied like day-to-day basis? Yeah, you can. Can you relate to a guy who had money issues? Unfortunately, yes. Who can't pay his bills on time? Unfortunately, yes. Okay, I'm gonna stop before I start exposing myself. But
all right, yeah. So just with that, there's so many mediums that we've got to like inherit Spider-Man 30. So I know like it's not ABC Kids, but I know like the original Spider-Man like in the 90s, that cartoon Fox Kids, there we go, that we got to watch, and just like a lot of it sucks. A lot of like the animated shows didn't get like a real ending, because that one didn't get it. Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man Unlimited didn't get it, which was fire.
Spectacular.
Yes, yeah, like, a lot of those didn't get endings. But also just like movies. So like Spider-Man, the first movie with Tobey Maguire, that comes out 2000, right?
2002.
2002, we have Spider-Man 2 dropping soon thereafter, and then Spider-Man 3 dropping like '07, I believe. So like 3 of those dropped like when we were still elementary school students. So that was perfection. I remember seeing the trailer for the second one, and like when he was on the street and he was like sliding through it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be incredible. But so just like a lot of that, and then also, yeah, we mentioned like we also have the Andrew Garfield versions, which get maligned because of studio interference, and then also we have the Tom Holland. Before we get to greatness above greatness, but that's not our part, Peter Parker, that we're talking about. So, and then gaming, fam. Like I know the last Spider-Man game like was fire, and then the one that's about to drop is going to be even better. That like game of the year, just lock it up. But like Web of Shadows, Shattered Dimensions, like the original like versions of like Spider-Man 2, where it was like kind of closer to the movie.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes, Ultimate Spider-Man was so good when you get to play with Venom and just eat people.
Yeah.
I know there's another like multi-dimensional one. Maybe it's Edge of Time.
Edge of Time, yep.
Yes. So just like all of those mediums for Spider-Man were incredible. How about you? I know like with comics, it had to be super big for you.
Oh yeah. So you mentioned like we mentioned a lot of the great shows already, Spectacular being the goated. Like actually my introduction was through the TV show. And I remember I actually got 2 comics basically through that. One was like essentially one where he turned into a giant spider monster, and then the other was Ultimate Spider-Man #1. So the comic book medium, like when it comes to Spider-Man, it fluctuates wildly. I'm not even gonna hold you, okay? So you get like your main 616 Peter Parker. That's everybody from 1962 all the way through to like technically present day, but in any case, like there are many great stories that you see in there. I mean, like you think about some of the greats, there's like the death of Gwen Stacy, R.I.P. to baby girl. You got like the marriage of Mary Jane and Peter, the alien costume saga, A.K.A. Venom saga, got the Carnage saga. We got ourselves the story that shall not be named. And you got you got the clone saga, the story that will not be named out here. You got Civil War out here. and you got Superior Spider-Man. There's so many just different.
Civil War is kind of wonky. That's kind of what you mentioned the last 30 years of Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's wonky. It's wonky like horrendously because it leads to the story that shall not be named. But really, if you ever wanted to get into Spider-Man, and this is something I always recommend to folks, is the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, because it basically you're not bogged down by like 60 plus years of history. You just get a nice condensed Spider-Man set of stories and they're just like, hey, he's a high schooler and this is the inspiration for practically everything that you think of when you think Spider-Man to this day, or specifically the Tom Holland version.
Yes. And then just even like the team ups of Spider-Man, like in the comics on television, were incredible. Like he's like easily one of the superheroes, specifically because he's not always in a team. Like sometimes he's in the Avengers, but like sometimes he's in the Fantastic Four. He teams with the X-Men, but like he's not, situated with that. But like it's like him and Deadpool are just like incredible together, which is like I feel like Deadpool is like the one person. Well, Deadpool respects Spider-Man almost more than almost any other hero to an extent, even though he annoys him to no end.
Yeah, and also, hey, how can we forget Spider-Man and Wolverine?
I was literally thinking that, bub.
Like literally, they're the two duos that like there's no way they would ever work together, but they just do. You know how opposites attract.
Yeah,
and the fact that well, I would say like it's because of the fact Wolverine can't kill Spider-Man. It's like, and because of the fact Spider-Man will put him on a T-shirt if necessary. And then we also get like, as you mentioned, like so many team ups. Like probably the biggest one that people think of, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, Iceman and Firestar, debuted on that TV show. And that was actually Firestar's debut in anything Marvel related, because she started in that cartoon, then went to the comics later, canon immigrant. But yeah, so like generally speaking, like he has so many team ups, so many wild stories that range the spectrum from absolutely amazing to he who shall not be named.
Yes, to garbage. So with that, you mentioned the popularity, but we can get even more specific. Like we've mentioned it before, but I feel like it is either Spider-Man or Batman for like the number one, and then Superman like right underneath that. And it's like not even close to like later. So like even with me, when we got to the Marvel universe and the way they introduced him, and the way they introduced him was good, but I'm like, Spider-Man does not need Iron Man to like babysit him. I know I know in the comics like he's kind of like a pseudo, not really father figure, because like at that time Peter Parker is like much older than how he's portrayed now, but I'm like, he does not need Iron Man to like hold his hand through this. Like Spider-Man can stand on his own, which we are going to see hopefully in the new trilogy that's dropping. So that's one thing. Again, team ups, you can't do that with a character that's not popular. One thing. So yeah, anything you got to say?
Speaking of that, here's a way that Spider-Man is Marvel's like top hero. They will debut other characters in a Spider-Man book to ensure that the readers will read about that specific character. So, for example, if you ever thought about like wanting to read a Silver Sable book, debuted in Spider-Man, who think about your favorite anti-hero that's not Venom, Punisher, debuted in Spider-Man book. Actually was a Spider-Man antagonist, but yeah. And need I say more about the King in Black himself? I'm just saying. But like, yeah, Marvel does have like a thing where if you have like a character that you want to push and it's not X-Men related, 99% of the time they debut in a Spider-Man book, and it's either they debut in a Spider-Man book or whenever they have their own story, Spider-Man just appears in it just for no reason whatsoever. You just like,
or they'll die off in a Spider-Man book so you can do the reboot around the movie.
Oh, we ain't talking about that. We ain't talking about that. Oh, you about to ruffle a lot of feathers. You about to ruffle a lot of feathers with that. But
I didn't write it. That wasn't my decision.
Neither did I. But yeah, as I said, like And in fact, like the whole concept of the Ultimate Universe, like that's one of people's like favorite universes. That's with like it's from like the Ultimate Universe started with Spider-Man. And it dovetailed into its own thing, into its own verse. So without Spider-Man, you guys would not have the MCU as you would know it.
That's incredible because also that you mentioned that the Spider-Verse comic, the first crossover was incredible. And then that bled into Spider-Geddon, which then became more of a Gwen Stacy / Miles Morales led thing, situation.
Which led to the Spider-Verse movies that you know to this day.
So that's really cool.
Everything always goes back to Spider-Man.
So with the happiness that does come from Spider-Man, we can't talk about this is a hero born through loss, as so many heroes are. So with that, Uncle Ben being the most pivotal loss in his life. Obviously, how the story goes, it's told slightly different depending on the canon, but it's almost generally similar. Gets his powers, wants to impress a girl, goes out. Again, people, stop simping. Goes out, lies to Uncle Ben. They always beef right before he leaves, and then he lets like the, robber to go. Uncle Ben gets clapped doing the right thing, and then they have that pivotal moment. I remember seeing that in the first one, just being like, dang, man, because like he really could have stopped the dude, but he was like, it was understandable why he didn't do it. And then kind of how they tied that into Spider-Man 3 with, again, I believe Sandman kind of got screwed with that movie because he had a really good character arc, but that situation.
Yeah. They're like Uncle Ben, it is the character defining moment for him. And they're like, if you don't have him lose Uncle Ben, I mean, it's a canon event, but don't have him lose Uncle Ben, like you basically get a really polluted version of Spider-Man, or diluted version, one who may not actually know the great power that must also come great responsibility. And in fact, like to this day, Uncle Ben is still dead in comics, which is insane because back in the day, right, when it comes to death in comics used to actually be death. Like once you were dead, you were gone. And then Superman happened to die, and that killed death in comics forever. And because of that, like there was a certain mantra that was set out, which is that no one stays dead except Uncle Ben, Bucky, and Jason Todd Red Hood. Now, remember what I said earlier? Only one of them is still dead to this day.
Yes. So, yeah.
But yeah.
I mean,
oh, you would say?
Oh, yeah. Just like, I mean, there is the Scarlet Spider. I know that storyline, like the Clone Saga is like terrible, but Ben Reilly is not Uncle Ben. So like, even though they do honor him in different ways, like you mentioned, he's dead. And you're right about it being a diluted Spider-Man, because if that doesn't happen, we see right before Uncle Ben dies, he uses his powers for his own like good and his own means. So he can become a character where it's like that. But then we see after post Uncle Ben dying, he becomes more selfless with that, where to extent we can get into later, where sometimes it's OD, where it's like it completely destroys his personal life, but also just like to that we see that. So the next loss, there are probably others that you can mention better than me, but Gwen Stacy, Lord have mercy.
Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. Now, this is the death that changed comics forever. I'm not even going to hold you. It is this death that single-handedly, and of course, it comes from a Spider-Man book where a moment in there changed how comic books is written and viewed forever, where it literally ended in the Silver Age of comics and went on to a much darker age. As we all know, Gwen Stacy, love of his life, his girl he was gonna marry, you know what I'm saying? Well, he would have proposed, but of course his ops was always watching. The number one op of all time, Doc Ock. I'm just kidding. He's not his number one op. In fact, he's probably...
I mean, in the games he is now after what he did.
Look.
A monster.
We ain't talking about that one right now. We ain't talking about PS4. PS5 Spider-Man. But yeah, Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, he decided, all right, I know who Peter Parker is. I'm gonna go after his girl. Then come another story that shall never be named, but yeah, essentially Gwen gets knocked off a building, and this is probably perhaps the most contested debate of all time, which is when Spider-Man webs her up and then her neck snaps. And the question still remains to this day. Like, many people still have this debate of, did Green Goblin kill her before she fell off the bridge, or did Spider-Man snap her neck? And this is something that haunts Peter Parker to this day, to where there's this whole story called Spider-Man Blue. And in this story, basically, Spider-Man literally just has like a recorder, and he's basically just talking to Gwen, detailing everything that's happened in his life and just all of his regret in her death. And yeah, like it's a huge death, because there was no other occurrence beforehand where the love interest gets killed off. There was no time beforehand where the hero was unable to save someone.
Now, is his version of, I know, like, obviously we have Spider-Gwen. His version of Gwen Stacy is still dead, right? And like every continuation. I know there was like the event that you mentioned it before, but
well, I'm gonna say technically she is dead. Like she is gone. But unfortunately, she got cloned a bunch of times, so we don't know. We don't know.
But yeah, that's crazy. But actually, one thing I love about Spider-Man 2 with this, Spider-Man is one of him and Batman, what I really loved about them, it was like, I am going to wear my mask. In the movies, it's less so, but like in the TV show and comics, it's like, I am not taking off my mask for anybody, and no one can know my identity. I do not have like anyone helping me. I do not, particularly with Spider-Man, I don't have any sidekicks. Even my closest allies can't know who I am, because if anyone knows who I am and my enemies know who I am, they're going to target my people. And like a lot of other heroes don't have to deal with this. To an extent, like obviously we have Tony Stark, but like, okay, I'm a billionaire. You can't touch me. Bruce Banner, he is like the enemy of all enemies. He is the author. He is like the author of all. Yes, literally. So it's like with them like that, even like Superman, we don't have to talk about just putting on glasses to the sky.
Who's gonna try Superman? And like he invincible, not in the daylight.
That's true. Like most people's, like you could still sneak Lewis Lane to an extent, but he can like obviously clap you if he wanted to. But I love that Spider-Man was like, I'm not going to reveal my identity for anyone. So like to lose Gwen Stacy, as you mentioned, and then even in the first one when Norman was like, his heart, Norman, his heart, and rolled up on our girl.
Whew. Oh man, yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, I said this was the death that changed comics, but also we need to talk about probably one of his biggest losses in tragedy, which was his sense of self-identity, called Clone Saga. Yeah. So this was around the time that I had stopped. Like when I heard about the Clone Saga and like I saw it in the '90s show, I was like, oh, that seems cool. And then read the comics like, all right, I'm not reading Spider-Man ever again from that. Because essentially what happens is Miles Warren, A.K.A. the Jackal, A.K.A. complete garbage. He and a complete pedophile, but I'm not going to talk about that. But the fact he was in love with Gwen Stacy, hated the fact that Peter Parker's with her, so he cloned her and cloned him and cloned more of him and cloned more of him. And at this point, you had like 10,000 different clones of Peter Parker. You had Ben Reilly, you had Kane Parker, you had Spider-Side, you had Spider-Geddon, you had just spiders, all different Peter Parkers all over the wazoo. And then they made you think that Ben Reilly was the real Peter Parker, and the real Peter Parker that you were following for the past like 30 plus years was a fake. And oh boy, did the crowd go nuts for that. And by nuts, I mean riots were out here in these streets. The comic book industry collapsed, and it put Marvel in a hole to which they had to sell off all their comic book characters to different studios.
Dude, that's crazy that you write a storyline that bad that it sinks an entire business.
Yeah, think
That's wild.
well, it was one of many reasons why the comic book crash happened, but it was definitely a huge reason. And another reason why I think it was horrible was the fact that it was supposed to be a quick storyline, and then they stretched it out for 2 whole years. So you think you think One Piece was fluff? That's crazy. At least One Piece had some sense,
Substance.
At least you could actually eat with One Piece. You couldn't eat with the Clone Saga.
Oh man, but yeah, another loss, a key one, the Osborns. This has to be like, other than Eddie Brock, maybe his most complicated relationships with people. Not only Norman but also Harry. Both of them in different canons, different like publications, have become the Green Goblin in various senses. I believe, I'm not going to spoil for the game because I know who Venom is, but just like in other cases, he's in the TV show, he became Venom, I believe. The new Ultimate Spider-Man, Harry, was Venom.
Yeah.
So like different situations like that. In the Amazing Spider-Man movies, Harry had like the sickness that his dad had, which was the goblin sickness. So just like that being his best friend, and then Norman also being like literally his surrogate dad.
Yep, the next father figure.
And both of them being his number one op is insane.
And what's even crazier is, as I mentioned, both of them are ops, and they both have done like really horrendous acts to Peter Parker. And at least in the case of one of them, he manages to forgive. So like, for example, Norman Osborn, as we mentioned, Gwen Stacy, I think that should be enough. But then it's revealed he's the reason the whole clone saga had. I was about to say Clone Wars. I mean, it basically was a Clone War.
Yes.
It was more of a Clone Wars than the Clone Wars. That's crazy. But yeah, so he's the reason that happened. There was the fact that at this time, Peter Parker and Mary Jane were married, and Mary Jane was pregnant with a child, and then the child was apparently stillborn, but it was revealed that Norman Osborn kidnapped the child. And we never find out what happened to that child ever again, and we just are led to assume that he murdered that child dead. Which is kind of
wild.
Yeah, and then there's Harry, which is of course like him crashing the wedding, or him kidnapping literally everybody that Peter Parker knew and had a fight to the death with them inside a burning building before,
or killing Gwen Stacy.
Or getting Gwen Stacy clapped, or nearly killing Peter Parker in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. I mean,
yeah, that's wild. And then even in the original trilogy of movies, where that whole dynamic kind of played out, where it's like, yo, you're my best friend, and then I'm dating also your girl to an extent, and then you take my girl, but then also the guy that you like is supposed to be your boy, he killed my dad, and you're not going to tell me who he is. So it's just kind of like, and then in the third one, they become enemies, and then him dying to sacrifice himself. But yeah, so now we have another sacrifice that we got to get to.
Let's talk about the biggest sacrifice of all, the op above all of Spider-Man. It's unfortunately Marvel writers and the Marvel editors. I'm not even going to hold you. They are the worst thing to ever happen to Spider-Man, because if it wasn't for them, then none of what I'm about to say would ever happen. Number one was what I mentioned earlier about getting rid of that baby. The whole clone saga, I was about to say Clone Wars again, the whole clone saga happened because they wanted a younger Peter Parker. Why? Because apparently it was through their thick skulls that, specifically Joe Quesada, they was like, hey, I want a single Peter Parker, a bachelor, if you will. Which I'm like, no, we do not. We do not want that. We want characters who grow. We want characters who age, who actually grow wiser and not regress to that of a man-child. Looking at you, Peter Parker of the late 2000s, if it was because of that the story that will never be named has happened. All right? It was from there that Peter Parker basically regressed to that of a man-child. It was through the editors that Peter Parker became an incel in these new comics. That's kind of crazy.
It's
Yes, I am. Yes, I will call it how I see it. This man is an incel.
Is he William Smith?
No, he is not. He actually kinda. I'll just say when he in these newest issues, he was kind of acting more like Andrew Tate than anything else. But William Smith, I'm like, I don't think there's ever come a point where he slapped the taste out of a man's mouth for Mary Jane. I'm just saying, but yeah, it's just like they just seem to have just a strong hatred for Peter Parker to the point they can't let this man be happy. Because even though what's relatable to Spider-Man, we can talk about it later, is about his struggles. They apparently said, "Oh, this man's supposed to be struggling. What's today's version of struggling? Oh, making him a man-child, making him an incel, relationship issues, still crying in his bed. That's crazy. Let's do it."
Wait, you don't cry in your bed at night?
I cry for different reasons. I actually cried tears of joy in my bed. All right.
Nice.
I don't cry tears of wallow in pity.
You cry for your Mortal Kombat victims that you defeat.
Yes, each one. I actually don't mourn for my victims. I still mourn over that one loss I had. Listen, if you are out there and you faced Absolute Venom 121 on PS5, I need you to run these ones again.
But he hit you before your training arc. I feel like that doesn't count.
It does count, okay? I need that redemption match.
All right, cool. So moving forward again, another thing about Spider-Man that's super cool is just the self-sacrifice. He's always been portrayed as a genius since inception. I know, like in later storylines, he becomes like Mr. Mr. Fantastic levels of genius, which might be a bit too much, but yeah, but he's always been a genius, and like in it we see that okay, like he's supposed to be going to school, but like he has to miss stuff because he's being Spider-Man. Different relationships. His relationship with Mary Jane suffers initially because Spider-Man, he won't tell her who he is because no one can know. And then even when he does become Spider-Man, and she's like, "Yo, I'm cool with it," it's one thing to say you're cool with something, but to actually like be in the mud with it is like really tough. And just like the different situations that occur. So that's something that I definitely could relate to with him, where it's like we have so much going on, the two of us, that obviously we're not superheroes, quote unquote. But
villain.
Yeah, but with that, we're stretching ourselves in so many different directions, in which if we actually pick things that we love, we could be much better at it, or at least have more time for it. So it's like, as a kid growing up, I could kind of understand that. And again, like you mentioned, he was geared towards the kids with that. So his self-sacrifice is incredible.
Yeah, and all I gotta say about that is, yeah, he has probably one of the biggest hearts, and one of the biggest hearts of all the heroes. There's something I meant that I wrote in here. It's called him being the underdog, where he will fight tooth and nail to ensure things get done, even if it means his life is forfeit. There are too many examples of that. Time he fought the Juggernaut, and if you know about Juggernaut, this man fought him to a standstill. There was this time he fought a Herald of Galactus on his own and managed to wash him because because he gave it everything.
I mean, Moreland.
Yeah, Moreland. He literally died against Moreland and had to be brought back, and he ran the ones again and beat him. But then the big creme de creme of when we're talking about self-sacrifice is Ultimate Peter Parker's death, where he literally fought the entire Sinister Six, or Ultimate Six, or just the Six.
Yeah.
He fought all of them on his front lawn in front of Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, and and Aunt May. All three of them fought all six of them to death. Literally, he died, and half of his villains did as well.
Was Goblin in that six?
Yes.
Okay, because I remember the Goblin. Yeah. So to you, with self-sacrifice, what's your standout Spider-Man like moment, because for me, I always think of Spider-Man 2, which for the longest time, like for years, was my favorite Spider-Man movie. But the scene where it's after he loses his powers. And like obviously, like you see the initial part where people are getting jumped and stuff like that, and he's like, "Okay, I'm not going to do it." But then there's that the apartment is on fire scene, and he doesn't have his powers at all. Like it's not even like where it's like messing up. He doesn't have his powers. He doesn't have his mask. He doesn't have anything, and he literally runs into a blazing building. And like I forgot how high up he had to go, but like he saves that child, and he like literally almost dies if she doesn't save him. Like he literally would have died, and she would have still been safe. But like he got her out, and then he hears that like someone else dies. But they could have been saved if like he was Spider-Man, and that like hits him like the self-sacrifice. I love Spider-Man too, like because of that.
Yeah, that scene is definitely probably one of the biggest highlights of all time when it comes to that. I think like another one is kind of just a small moment, and it's a story called The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man, where he essentially like he visits a child, has an adventure with basically just talking about his entire life as Spider-Man, you know, motivations. And then at the end of it, he reveals his identity to the kid, basically because of the fact that the child is terminal cancer. And that's just like a major self-sacrifice because of the fact that like, hey, as you mentioned, he will never reveal his identity for just anyone. And in fact, he does so for this kid to give the kid just some extra assurance, just like, hey, I'm a normal guy too. I made millions upon millions of mistakes.
Yeah.
But I still keep fighting.
And going back to Spider-Man 2, just like what he means to people, the train scene. The train scene is one of the greatest scenes in any like superhero movie ever. Just like you're showing off, like stopping the train one, but then like where everyone carries him, like when he faints, and they set him down and they take his mask off, and it's just like he's a kid. He's literally just like us. And then they give him his mask back, and it's like, don't worry. None of us are, well, you can tell this movie was made in the early 2000s because they're like, none of us are going to tell like who you are. But if this was today, everyone would be taking a picture. But
you mess with none of us, you mess with all of us. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong Spider-Man movie, my bad.
That was a good one. Yeah, and then Doc Ock pushes them aside, but oh man. So relatability or willing to redeem villains, if you want to mention that.
Yeah. So there are many times where he actively tries and he somewhat succeeds in redeeming his villains. Black Cat, if you don't remember, technically started off as a villain. Mm-hmm. And of course they progressed to being lovers, a la Batman and Catwoman.
And number one girl, based on our earlier conversations on the podcast.
Woo. Well, we ain't getting to that right now.
Right.
Like that's part of his unrelatability. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, so there's that. There's, of course, as I'm gonna mention, the King in Black himself, Venom. All right. Because Eddie Brock was going for this man's soul.
That was on site.
On site every day. And the fact that over time Peter Parker, like, of course, the symbiote and Eddie both got individual character development and got to one like, hey, now they're on friendly terms with one another to the point where Peter Parker is now Dylan Brock's basically godfather. There's also the fact that he was able to rescue Harry Osborn and redeem him, even though he dies like immediately afterwards.
Flash Thompson.
I was about to get there. Like, well, Flash Thompson, that was just basically a case of him growing up. I'm not
That's true. That's true.
Because don't forget, like he just despised Peter Parker. He idolized Spider-Man. So
yes,
which is kind of crazy. But yeah, like Peter Parker over time was able to show Flash Thompson like, hey, listen, I'm a better guy. If I wanted to, I could have folded you on site multiple times, but hey, I didn't, because and from there you got Agent Venom, you know. And there's just like many different other characters who've been redeemed because of Sandman was redeemed a multitude of times for Spider-Man because he actually had a moral compass. So Rhino on multiple occasions got redeemed because he had a moral compass. Of course, they a lot of them revert back to villain status, mostly because Marvel editors don't realize that the status quo can change for folks. No, the biggest redemption arc of all time, Otto Gunther Octavius.
Ooh, that's a big one because of how he did it.
It's like there are two modes of redemption. We can go with the Spider-Man 2 route, where he just talked with this man.
Oh my gosh.
And he gets redeemed once more by No Way Home, or Superior Spider-Man. Let's go ahead and talk.
Just messed up about how it led to that because he literally took his body.
Listen. Sometimes you had to do what you had to do. You had to do what you had to do. You had to give up your own body.
I feel like May redeemed him more than Peter did.
No,
to an extent,
because it was Peter's memories that basically led Otto to a path of redemption. So
okay,
I mean, sure, they did have a large hand in it, but still,
that's fair. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, No Way Home, that entire movie is about him redeeming villains. So, I mean, literally, Norman Osborn has killed Aunt May. Oh my gosh, that one was, whew.
Couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me. So, yeah, with that, we talked about relatability, wanting to redeem. What else do you have? You want to talk about anything with the symbiote? Just like that arc?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to dispel a lot of rumors about like what the symbiote does to Peter. It's because of the fact that due to the Spider-Man 90s anime series and then Spider-Man 3, where it gives you the conception that he gets stronger when he has the suit on, and it makes him more aggressive to the point where he's an absolute menace to society. That's not what it did to him in the comics. In the comics, all it did was take control of his body at night. So he kept being Spider-Man even when he was asleep. So he'd wake up exhausted because he got literally no rest. And the reason he rejected it was because of the fact that when he analyzed it, he saw the suit was alive. That was the only reason, which are kind of petty reasons. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because if I had a suit like, oh yeah, your suit's alive, and I'm like, oh, word,
you're different. You are a Spawn Venom fanatic.
But no, but again, if I found out like a suit that I was wearing is alive and is able to like transform to whatever I want it to be, is not messing with my mental brain patterns, and I still have powers, and I am wearing that suit every day. I'm letting it bond with me permanently. But yeah, the Venom saga is an amazing saga, where again, it led to the introduction of Venom, and it also led to like just Peter Parker just being different from a little bit, at least in terms of all the other adaptations, because in the regular series, as I mentioned, it didn't change his personality at all. But in every other adaptation, this man was different. He was on timing. Do I need to mention what happened with him and Shocker?
Oof. I've seen like also that like it's not the fact he gets quote unquote stronger, it's the fact that like he's always that strong. It's just that like when he's normal Spider-Man, he's always holding back to an extent.
Well, yeah, of course he always is holding back. It's just the fact that like in the animated series and every other adaptation, it explicitly says like,
yeah,
wow, I feel stronger in this suit. But like it could just be that limit on his brain is just off, and he out here boloing folks and sending a Rhino to the afterlife. All I'm saying is Insomniac, if we don't get a Shocker moment with the symbiote, this game gonna go from game of the year lock to game of the year maybe.
So with that, I think we can do just like a quick little discussion, but not who is the best Spider-Man villain, but who's the most popular Spider-Man villain? Who's the best one in your opinion? The number one op? Because like in different situations, there are like 3 standout ones, but one of them faded. And then there's 2 that are like creme de la creme, if you will. But one of them, like you mentioned, got redeemed and is kind of, off and on now. And we didn't even talk about Carnage this entire time, really.
No, because well, hey, he's more of a Venom villain, but there is no need to talk about what Carnage does because good heavens.
Yes.
But yeah, as you mentioned, there's basically, you know how there's the big three of anime, there's the big three of Spider-Man villains, and we all know who they are. Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Venom. All three of them were Spider-Man villains of different eras, and all three of them did heinous acts to Peter. But in my opinion, like, Venom actually is probably number 3. Like, he can go, not just because of his redemption arc, but because he really didn't do anything that, like, left a, oh my goodness, like, this changes everything for Spider-Man. Like, and then Doc Ock, I mean, we all know the most heinous thing he did to him was go superior, but
not in the game.
Not yet. In the game, he
went too far.
He clapped Aunt May, and then in the comics, he clapped Aunt May differently. But and the worst part is, I'm not joking about that. So, but in my opinion, I say Doc Ock, he's a solid number 2, only because of the fact that Superior redeemed him, even though he's technically still a villain right now, but the return of Superior Spider-Man, we don't know. But number 1 has to be the creme de la creme, Norman Osborn. He is the op. He is. Oh, actually, no. Norman Osborn's number 2. Number 1 is the Marvel editors and writers, but yeah. So his actual in-universe villain is 100% J. Jonah Jameson. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. It's Norman Osborn. It always is Norman Osborn. I mean, killed the love of his life. Clone Saga. So many heinous acts.
Red Goblin.
Huh?
Red Goblin.
Red Goblin. I was about to say, we don't need to talk about what heinous activities this man did. Killed Flash Thompson. He let's see. He was also instrumental in the Absolute Carnage event as a second Carnage. So yeah. And then the fact that in the Ultimate comic books, he gets Peter Parker killed. Let's see, what else did he do? Oh yeah. The fact that this man's sins were able to infect Peter Parker and make him completely different. He made him the spider who gobs. And that just lets you know just how much of a menace to society he is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, biggest villain.
I think you nailed it. I know, like, man, Doc Ock is like right up there because like Sinister Six and just like the different things he's done. But Green Goblin, Norman Osborn has just done things that like are on a personal level egregious. So with that, we can get anything else before we get into recommendations.
I just also want to mention just there's this one thing that's unrelatable to Spider-Man, and I'm not talking about his powers. I'm talking about the fact that this man can riz up so many beautiful women that I'm just like, boy, how? In fact, he got Black Cat,
Silk,
Gwen Stacy, Silver Sable,
Betty Grant,
Carly Cooper, Mary Jane at one point.
Didn't he have X-Men at one point?
In the Ultimate Universe, he dated Kitty Pryde of the X-Men. I'm just like, boy, this man's unstoppable. But we also need to have a discussion, right, about how in the Tobey Maguire movies, Mary Jane is the worst character.
You mentioned this before.
This is a hill I'm willing to die on.
This is why you dropped her. Oh, man.
So, okay. And this is not just, like, Spider-Man 3 on its own just lets you know how much of a bad character she is. But in the first 2 movies, she's just as horrendous. All right, so number 1.
The first movie, really?
Yes, in the first. Okay, think about it like this.
Okay.
You're Harry Osborn.
Yes, okay.
You are Harry Osborn.
You got me.
You dating Mary Jane.
Yes.
She giving you the cold shoulder. And then after Green Goblin decided to blow up Times Square, like you call her and she's just fawning over Spider-Man. She kisses this man upside down. And then in the hospital.
Oh man. In
the hospital with Aunt May, you walk in to see her and Peter getting it on.
Not getting it on.
Just risen it up. and you have flowers in your hands. Nah.
Hey, okay, Spider-Man 2. I kind of understand why, but keep going.
Spider-Man 2. Okay. So, firstly, she knows Peter has a thing for her. And he has said so multiple times. He just can't be with her right now. You know, man's going on his solo arc. He going on his training arc, you know?
Yes.
And, all right, now picture this. They have an argument. Just one argument. Mm-hmm. And what she does right after they have the argument about her, like them not being together? She goes right to John Jameson and accepts the proposal for marriage.
In fairness, you cannot wait for someone that is dragging their feet. Because in real life, you would not do that.
True.
But if they are dragging their feet.
No. But here's the thing, though. She has the argument right before he proposed. Right. And she looked at this man while she says yes. And then, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that lets you know she's horrible. All right. So she kisses John Jameson with the upside down kiss. All right. And she said, hold on. This don't feel right. Mind you, she is still engaged to this man. Then she calls up Peter Parker to meet at a cafe, saying hey, kiss me.
You're right. I was thinking of it through the lens, through Peter the entire time. You're right. She was moving egregiously.
And we do not even need to talk about Spider-Man 3.
Oh, one more thing with Spider-Man 2. She looked at the altar. At the altar. That's messed up.
She could have ended it at any point before the wedding.
She gave him a note.
She gives him a note. Clearly, she is already dressed in her white wedding dress.
You're right.
And she leaves. The wedding reception already got paid for. All the food paid for. Everybody is there. This man, John, was hurt.
He never recovered.
He never recovered. You never saw him again.
He had to do a eat, pray, love retreat.
He decided, saying, you know what? I'm going to a different franchise. We isekaiing ourselves.
You're right. You're right. If you don't look at it from the way of Peter Parker, you're right.
And even if we do Spider-Man 3,
yes,
arguing with this man, being this ain't about you, it's about me. What you mean?
It's best friend.
What you mean by And of course, she did have a valid point about the upside down kissing. Peter was moving kind of crazy in that moment. But to go to Harry afterwards,
yes,
and kiss this man,
that's it.
And then break up with Peter. Sure, she was under duress at that time, but it don't.
Moving forward. Yeah, you're right. And then we don't even have to talk about Paul. So ending the podcast because we ain't talking about that. So man, this was great. Just getting a chance to talk about Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Obviously, there's so many other Spider-Men, women, beings, and organisms that exist because of that. But just giving a chance to give it to the GOAT, OG Spidey. So yeah, I really appreciate it. I love doing character study series. Any other characters we do in the future, just definitely want to hop into. And if you have recommendations, you can totally hit us up about it. So Meech, recommendations.
All right, so I'm gonna go super quickly with this one. Amazing Fantasy 15. You get you also have to get first issue of Amazing Spider-Man. You also have to do the Alien costume saga of Venom issue 300. You also have to go and do the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, play the Ultimate Spider-Man game, play Spider-Man 2 on PS2, play Ultimate Spider-Man, play all the games that we mentioned earlier, play Spider-Man PS5, play Miles Morales, play Spider-Man 2 when it drops, watch every Spider-Man movie. You'll find enjoyment in all of them. And you can find literally every single Spider-Man related TV show and all of that on Disney Plus. So yeah, pretty straightforward.
You hit it. So not really much more for me to say. So with that, we can get into our plugs.
All right. So we have ourselves our Instagram and our Twitter. also known as X. And then we have our Threads account, Blerd City 22. Like, comment, subscribe, stay up to date with all of our schedules, hit bells for notification. We also have ourselves our YouTube and our Patreon, which is under Blerd City Pod. Donate a little cheddar. We get ourselves access to very exclusive content on our Patreon, like our character analysis of pain. We also have ourselves our Discord, which is a fine community of degenerates with memes and all the assortments, and you can find that in our social media pages. We have ourselves our email address, blerdcity22@gmail.com. That's where you can submit Geek Out Freakouts, episode suggestions, your love for Geek Out Freakouts, random fan theories, all of that sundry shenanigans. And then finally, I'm the Jedi Ronin 21 on TikTok. However long we got TikTok left, and that may ducktail into more social media presence. What you got?
For my individual author pages, we have my Instagram, Mitri_dash, that is METRI_DASH, and then at the Matt-16 on X. So with that, we can kind of just wrap up, give some words of encouragement to the people. Oh, and a quick housekeeping. Next week, we are finally, with it being like our last episode before Halloween, about to dive into our Halloween bag with something special.
Yes. All right. So with that, my words of encouragement is, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. What does that mean for you? If you have the ability to do something and you are and you don't do it, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
And for me, I'm going to say what I said on one of the Ahsoka episodes, and it's related to the Get It Off Your Chest segment earlier. This goes out to my kings, my queens, and in-betweens. Stop the simping. So with that, it's not goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for now. And that's Blerd City Podcast.
See ya later.